There are several types of law. The first type of law is constitutional law. It is the law of the land. It is defined in the Constitution, and it explains the relationship between the branches of government, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. Examples of this would include impeachment charges against a president, civil rights hearings, and so forth. This is the highest law of the land, and everything else is subordinate to it. Next is statutory law, which is subordinate to constitutional law. It's the written law that we follow. Then we have common law, which is based off of court decisions and judicial precedents. An example of this would be Brown versus the Board of Education, which ended segregation and set the precedents that separate is not equal. Another example of this would be Roe versus Wade, which was the abortion case, which set the precedents that women have the right to determine for themselves whether or not abortion is okay. Another type of law is civil law. This is like what you would see in Judge Judy. It's victim reimbursement, victim compensation. For example, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty in court of killing his wife, but he was found guilty in a civil case and had to pay his late wife's family for compensation. Another type of law is criminal law. This is what regulates our social conduct in society. It determines that, whatever is threatening or harmful to property, to people, so forth, that's going to be condemned. This is where forensics is most often used. Examples of criminal law would be speed limits, drug and alcohol rules, violent crimes, robbery, and burglary. We have equity laws, which allow the courts to use practice and discretion. Circumstantial law, for example, it lets the court consider the circumstances about why an action was taken. An example of this would be there was a case in Texas where a drunk driver killed a man's son, and the man ended up going out and shooting the person who killed his son. The court used equity laws to determine was that father responsible for killing the person who killed his son or not. Administrative law would be laws that govern the activities of administrative agencies, such as international trade laws. There are also various types of crime. An infraction is a minor offense. An example of an infraction would be disorderly conduct, destruction of property, public drunkenness. In Pennsylvania, these are called an intentional summary offense. The penalty is a fine not to exceed $800. The next up the list is misdemeanor, which would be a minor crime. An example of this would be an assault, a DUI. The penalty is a fine not to exceed $2,000 and jail for less than 10 months. The most severe type of crime is a felony. An example would be like 3 strikes you're outlaw. So when you get your third DUI, instead of it being a misdemeanor, it's treated as a felony. The penalty in this case is the fine is exceeding $3,000 and the jail time exceeds 10 months. Typically, the least amount of jail time is about 8 to 10 years for a felony. The Criminal Bill of Rights basically is a list of rights that a person has in the court system. For example, they're to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. They're to be fair questioning practices by the police. They have the right to an attorney and to a trial by jury. They have the right to be treated the same as others, regardless of their race, gender, religious preference, country of origin, or other personal attributes. These Criminal Bill of Rights have led to the Miranda rights, which is what we're most familiar hearing, especially if we watch crime TV. The Miranda rights are: you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to speak to an attorney and to have an attorney present during any questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be provided for you at the government's expense. Please take a few minutes to open up the document in Schoology that lists all of the Criminal Bill of Rights. The facets of guilt must be shown beyond a reasonable doubt within a court in order for a person to be convicted of a crime. The facets of guilt are means, motive, and opportunity. Means can be defined as the suspect having the ability to do the crime. So, for example, if someone is beaten, you're not going to go after a little old lady because she doesn't have the ability to commit the crime. Motive would be, does the suspect have a reason? This does not have to be proven. It just has to be shown that there is a plausible reason. And then opportunity. Was the suspect in the right place at the right time? If your suspect has an alibi that they were across town, then they did not have the opportunity to commit the crime.